Have you ever noticed that you can navigate, say, a really complex business negotiation in English?
Oh, absolutely. Or you can completely hold your own in some deep debate about philosophy.
Right. But then, the second you try to tell a funny story about what happened to you over the weekend,
Your brain just completely short circuits.
it is so frustrating. You have all these rich, high-definition memories, but you find yourself, entirely trapped in the present tense.
Yeah, it really is a profound cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
You possess the intellect and the vocabulary for complex, abstract thought,
Hmm.
but narratively, you are stuck taking static photographs of the current moment. You want to press play on the movie of your life for your listener, but the language mechanics suddenly fail you.
Exactly. And that is exactly what we are fixing today. Welcome to this deep dive. Today, our mission is to take you from simply describing your present state to becoming a captivating English storyteller.
Which is really the ultimate goal, isn't it?
It totally is. We are looking at how to effortlessly share your history, your experiences, and, those weekend adventures that actually build human relationships.
Right, because that's how we connect. And we are drawing our core insights today from a brilliant guide titled Mastering the Past, The Art of English Storytelling.
Such a great resource.
It is a remarkable piece of work. It moves beyond just listing grammatical concepts.
Thank goodness.
Right, it actually provides actionable cognitive techniques for learners. And it dissects a really practical conversational script between two characters, Paul and Emily.
Yeah, we'll get into that later.
We will.
Yeah.
It uses them to demonstrate how these mechanics manipulate the pacing and the emotion of a story.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because this isn't just about memorizing some dusty list of conjugation rules. We aren't here to give you a textbook lecture on verbs.
Definitely not.
This is about unlocking the architecture of human connection. It's about how you frame your identity by sharing what happened yesterday. And to do that, you have to understand how to build a world out of thin air.
Precisely. Any compelling narrative requires spatial and temporal grounding before a single event can even occur.
Grounding, right.
Yeah. If you just launch into a sequence of actions like, I slipped, I fell, I laughed, the listener experiences cognitive whiplash.
Oh, that's a great term. Cognitive whiplash.
Because they don't know where to place you in their mind. There's no context.
Which brings us to the ultimate scene setters, was and were.
Yes. The foundational tools.
I like to think of this like being a theater director. Before the actors even walk onto the stage, before anyone says a single line or throws a punch, you have to paint the backdrop.
You absolutely do.
You have to set the lighting. Was and were are your lighting rig and your set design. You use them to build the environment.
The guide gives great examples of this. Things like, yesterday the weather was sunny, or we were at the park.
Or even establishing internal states, right? Like I was exhausted.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is the psychological function of that transformation. In the present tense, am, is, and are just state facts. But when they transform into was and were, they act as a portal. You are signaling to your listener's brain that they need to leave the present room and construct a new mental environment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you are literally asking them to step onto your stage.
Right, because, if I just say I dropped my ice cream, it's a tragedy, sure.
A minor one, but yes.
But if I preface it with, I was at the beach, the sun was blazing, and I was absolutely starving.
Suddenly dropping the ice cream is a cinematic disaster.
Yes. You feel the heat. You feel the hunger. But I have to ask you, I get that was and were set the scene, but couldn't I just say it rained or I felt tired?
You could, but it changes the dynamic.
Why is the to be verb uniquely powerful here? Is it really that simple? Just swapping these tiny words to transport the listener?
It really is, and here is why. Action verbs inherently demand momentum. It rained, forces the story forward.
Okay, I see.
But the weather was rainy, holds the story still. It suspends time.
Oh, I love that. It suspends time.
Right. When you use was or were, you are explicitly telling your audience, hold on, don't move yet, just look around. It builds anticipation.
Like holding your breath before the roller coaster drops.
Exactly. Without that foundational pause, the actions that follow just completely lack emotional weight.
Okay, so you've built the stage, painted the backdrop, suspended time. But, a painted backdrop isn't a play.
No, it's not.
Eventually, time has to move forward. The actors have to enter the scene and actually do something.
And this is where the narrative engine kicks in. To drive the story forward, we rely on the absolute workhorse of English storytelling,
The ED rule.
Yes.
The guide calls this a great secret for beginners, and I view it as the ultimate universal adapter for verbs.
Universal adapter is a perfect metaphor.
Right. For the vast majority of regular actions, you just slap an ed onto the end of the word, and boom, you are in the past. Walk becomes walked, watch becomes watched, cook becomes cooked.
It's a brilliant shortcut.
You can build an entire morning routine just plugging in that adapter. I walked to a cafe, ordered a coffee, and watched the street.
It is incredibly efficient from a structural standpoint. It significantly reduces the cognitive load for the speaker.
Because you aren't digging for a new word.
Exactly. You don't have to search your mental dictionary. You just apply a mathematical formula to the word you already know.
But wait, I have to push back here for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
It is a neat mathematical formula on paper, absolutely, but spoken out loud. It's a landmine.
Ah, the pronunciation.
Yes. The guide explicitly notes that the spelling of that aid ending in words like walked or ordered almost never matches how it actually sounds.
That is very true.
Sometimes it sounds like a hard T, sometimes it's a soft D, sometimes it's a full ID sound. If it's a universal adapter, why does it sound wrong half the time?
That is the exact hurdle that frustrates so many learners. The written rule is a visual shortcut, but the spoken rule is deeply physical.
Physical, how so?
It all comes down to vocal cord vibration.
Vocal cord vibration. Okay, you have to explain that.
Let's do a little experiment. English relies on voiced and unvoiced sounds. If you put your hand on your throat right now and make an S sound,
Okay, wait, I'm literally doing this right now. Notice anything.
No, I don't feel anything in my throat.
Right, it's just air. That's an unvoiced sound, but now make a Z sound. Zzz.
Oh, wow. Yeah, zzz. My throat is vibrating. Totally a different physical feeling.
Exactly, that's a voiced sound. So when a verb ends in an unvoiced sound, like the K in walk, your vocal cords are already resting.
Okay.
It is physically easier for the human mouth to just add an unvoiced T sound at the end. So walked naturally becomes walked.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
But if a verb ends in a voiced sound like the R in order, your vocal cords are already buzzing. It's physically easier to finish with a voiced D, so ordered becomes ordered.
Wow, so it's not arbitrary at all.
Not at all. It's just the mouth taking the path of least physical resistance. That changes everything. It's not some cruel spelling test. It's just human biology trying to be lazy in the most efficient way possible.
Precisely. And when you realize that, the anxiety drops. You stop trying to memorize these long pronunciation lists and just let the physics of your mouth do the work.
I love that so much. But of course, just when you think you've cracked the code of English, the language gives you a high five with one hand and pulls the rug out from under you with the other.
As it always does.
Because here's where it gets really interesting. Not every verb plays by this neat biological formula. A great story can't be entirely predictable.
No, it needs twists.
It needs plot twists. It needs rule breakers.
Ah, yes. The irregular verbs. The true anarchists of the English language.
The anarchists. The guide lists some absolute must-know irregular verbs, and they completely shatter the aid rule.
They do not care about the adapter.
Not at all. You don't say good, you say went. You don't say eated, you say ate. Drink becomes drank. See becomes saw. Have becomes had. Buy becomes bought.
It's a lot to take in.
And my absolute favorite trickster word is read. Spelled exactly the same in the past tense, R-E-A-D, but pronounced completely differently like the color red.
It is undeniably perplexing for anyone trying to find logic in the system.
I appreciate how the guide frames them, though. It doesn't present them as this frustrating obstacle. It actually frames them as a fun puzzle to be solved.
Which is a much healthier mindset.
It is. But I have to ask you, why? Why does English have to be so stubborn?
That is the million-dollar question.
I mean, why make the most common words we use every single day, eat, drink, see, go, why make them the most irregular? Why didn't they just adopt the ed adapter like everything else?
This raises an important question, and the answer is deeply tied to historical linguistics. The frequency of these words is exactly why they remain irregular.
Wait, because we use them so much?
Yes, these are the survival words. Eating, drinking, going, seeing, sleeping. These are the core concepts humans have talked about every single day for thousands of years.
Right, way before dictionaries or standardized spelling even existed.
Exactly. Because they were used so incredibly often by everyday people, they resisted the standardization that swept through the language later on.
That is wild.
When new concepts were invented, like printing or telephoning or, Googling, we just slapped the regular ED rule onto them.
Because they were new.
Right. But the ancient foundational actions were so deeply burned into the cultural memory that nobody could force them to change. I like to think of these irregular verbs as linguistic fossils.
Linguistic fossils.
They are the antique furniture sitting right in the middle of the modern standardized house of the English language.
The antique furniture of the English language. That is brilliant. It makes them feel, I don't know, valuable rather than annoying.
Yes, exactly. They have character.
So they aren't mistakes. They're living history.
Precisely.
But knowing the history of the antiques, knowing the biology of the ed sounds, and knowing how to set the stage with was and were is all theoretical. How do these elements actually interact in the wild?
That is where the art of storytelling truly emerges. It's the alchemy of mixing these verb types together to manipulate the pace and the emotion of the narrative.
And the guide gives us a highly detailed conversational case study to demonstrate this, featuring two characters, Paul and Emily.
Yes, the script in the guide is very revealing.
Let's look closely at Paul's story first. He is recounting a busy Saturday in the city. He says he went to the city with a friend, they walked around, they looked at shops. He saw a nice shirt in a window, but he didn't buy it. He bought a book instead.
Notice the rhythm of Paul's delivery there. Went, walked, looked, saw, bought.
It's very punchy.
It is staccato. It's rapid fire. Action, action, action.
Yes, and then Emily interjects with this brilliant setting question. She asks, were you hungry after all that walking?
She uses were to slam the brakes on the action.
Right, and to check on his physical state. Paul replies, yes, we were very hungry, so we went to a small restaurant. I ate a big pizza and drank a lemonade while my friend had pasta.
It's a perfect encapsulation of narrative pacing.
How so?
He uses the state, we were hungry, to build that anticipation we talked about earlier, and then he fires off a volley of irregular verbs, went, ate, drank, had to complete the memory.
So what does this all mean? When you look at Emily's response, because Emily is quite the analytical listener in this script, she actually points out to Paul, it's great how you mixed regular verbs like walked and talked with irregular ones like went, ate, and took.
She is very observant.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
When people are actually sitting around at a dinner party, absolutely nobody breaks down their friend's grammar like Emily does. I mean, is this script actually realistic?
Well, literarily realistic. Perhaps not. You don't usually critique your friend's verb conjugation over drinks.
Right. I'd have no friends left.
Exactly. But as a distilled structural archetype, it is perfectly executed. Emily is verbalizing the subconscious rhythm that native speakers expect.
Oh, subconscious rhythm.
Yes. Paul mixes regular and irregular verbs naturally, which gives his story texture. If every single verb ended in ayed, the story would sound like a metronome. Walked, talked, looked, shopped.
Relentlessly repetitive. It gets boring.
Very. The irregulars force the mouth to make different shapes, which alters the cadence of the sentence, keeping the listener's brain engaged.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. The irregularity creates musicality.
That's a lovely way to put it.
So Paul finishes his rapid-fire city story by saying they talked for a long time and took the train home. Then he flips the spotlight to Emily. And Emily's story is a masterclass in a totally different vibe.
Completely different.
Paul had this bustling, action-packed city day. Emily had a quiet, reflective family day.
Let's look at how she structures it.
She says, my weekend was very nice too. I visited my family, so I was at my parents' house. There is our backdrop again. She is anchoring us in this cozy environment.
And Paul, learning from her earlier question, asks, were your parents happy to see you? He is checking the emotional state now.
And Emily confirms, yes, they were very happy. We were all together, and it was a wonderful day.
Look at how much time she spends just lingering in the setting.
I know. It was very nice. Was at my parents.
Yeah.
We're very happy. We're all together. It was a wonderful day. She is practically wrapping the listener in a warm blanket of was and were before she even introduces a single action.
Which perfectly reflects the emotional reality of her weekend. A family visit is often more about the state of being together than the specific actions you perform.
That's so true.
When she finally does introduce action, it's incredibly grounded. She says, later, I cooked dinner for a friend, chicken and vegetables, and we ate together.
Cooked, ate. A regular verb and an irregular fossil sitting right next to each other to finish the story.
Exactly.
I just keep thinking about how relatable and, well, ordinary these details are.
Yeah.
Pizza, lemonade, looking at a shirt in a window, cooking chicken.
You don't need a crazy adventure.
Right. It proves you don't need to have climbed to Mount Everest to tell a compelling story.
The grandeur of the event is entirely irrelevant. It is the structure of the delivery that creates the connection.
It's how you tell it.
Whether you are navigating a bustling city like Paul or enjoying a quiet dinner like Emily, the way you weave states and actions together dictates how deeply you pull the listener into your memory.
Pulling someone into your memory, that's the real goal. But here is the harsh reality.
Uh-oh, what's that?
Understanding the mechanics, mastering the vocal cord vibrations, honoring those linguistic fossils. All of that is completely pointless if the fear of making a mistake paralyzes you.
Yes, the anxiety factor.
You can have the perfect script in your head, but if you don't open your mouth, the connection never happens.
The affective filter, which is the psychological barrier of anxiety, is the single greatest threat to language acquisition and human connection.
Really, the single greatest threat.
Absolutely. When anxiety is high, your cognitive resources are diverted away from memory retrieval and towards self-preservation. You literally block your own access to the words you know.
Like a deer in headlights.
Exactly. You know the word, but your brain refuses to hand it over because it's panicking.
Well, the guide tackles this directly in its final section on practical application. And the very first rule is a massive shift in mindset. You have to radically embrace mistakes.
You have to.
The text explicitly reminds learners that the context almost always carries the meaning, even if the mechanics are broken. Like if you panic and say, I eat a huge pizza instead of I ate a huge pizza, the linguistic fossil is wrong, but the human connection is intact.
Nobody is going to stare at you and wonder if you drink a lemonade.
Right. They know exactly what you meant. You had pizza.
Striving for grammatical perfection during a spontaneous social interaction is a fool's errand. You are sacrificing authentic connection for technical accuracy.
But the guide gives one highly specific, actionable technique to overcome this cognitive lag. I think it is brilliant. It's called practicing through status updates.
This is a fantastic exercise.
The suggestion is that you should describe your entire day in the past tense, in English, right before you go to sleep. So you're lying in bed, the lights are off, and you just run through it mentally. I woke up, I walked to the train, I was tired, I had coffee, I ate a salad.
The cognitive psychology behind this is incredibly sound.
I see it like a private evening diary entry. But you never write it down. You only speak it in your head. That simple shift completely removes the audience.
And with the audience gone, the anxiety vanishes.
Suddenly, you aren't worried about someone judging your pronunciation of an edge verb. You aren't worried about looking foolish. You are entirely safe.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, doing this immediately before sleep leverages the brain's natural process of memory consolidation.
Consolidation, what does that mean in this context?
During sleep, your brain rehearses the neural pathways activated throughout the day. By forcing yourself to construct these past tense narratives right before drifting off, you are essentially telling your hippocampus, these structures are important, solidify them.
Wait, so you are literally hacking your sleep cycle to build English muscle memory?
In a way, yes. You're priming the brain.
That is amazing.
Furthermore, it bridges the gap between passive knowledge and active recall. When you do this mental status update, you might suddenly realize, wait, what is the past tense of catch? I caught a bus. Catched.
Oh, right. You find the gaps.
That moment of internal struggle is invaluable. It highlights exactly where your active vocabulary has a blind spot without the social embarrassment of freezing up at a dinner party.
You wake up the next morning, look up the word caught, and the fossil is permanently added to your collection.
Exactly. You do the hard work in private.
Making mistakes in the safety of your own mind so you can be fearless in public. Communication and human connection are always the end goal, not perfect grammar. The grammar is just the vehicle that gets you to the connection. I love that.
It's a very empowering perspective.
Well, let's take a moment to look back at the cinematic universe we've built today. We started with a blank stage, and you learned how to suspend time and paint the emotional backdrop of your stories using was and were.
We established the critical necessity of spatial and temporal grounding.
Then we brought in the actors and drove the plot forward using the brilliant Ed rule. We discovered that the chaotic pronunciation isn't a trick. It's just your vocal cords taking the path of least physical resistance.
Just biology doing its thing.
And we learned to respect the rule breakers. We embraced the irregular verbs, the went, ate, drank, and saw. Not as frustrating obstacles, but as ancient linguistic fossils that give our stories their texture and historical rhythm.
We need those antiques.
Finally, we analyzed Paul and Emily's masterclass in pacing, proving that blending those slow, lingering states with rapid-fire actions is how we build complete, compelling memories that pull people in. And we unlocks the mental status update to help you practice fearlessly.
It's quite the toolkit.
It really is. Now, we want to draw directly from the interactive spirit of the guide for our call to action today. We're challenging you right now to bypass the anxiety and put this into practice.
Yes, let's see it in action.
We want you to think of just one thing you did last weekend and share it in the comments of wherever you're listening to this deep dive.
It doesn't need to be an epic tale, just one sentence. Try anchoring us with a was or were, or test out one of those irregular fossils.
Exactly. Drop a mini story in the comments and let's see how you mix those verbs. But before we sign off, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Something to chew on as you go about the rest of your day.
Yes. Consider this. Does the way we structure our English past tense actually shape the architecture of our own memories?
Oh, wow.
Think about the psychology of it. When you look back at a pivotal moment in your life, do you remember the states more vividly? The was and were of the memory, where you were standing, how the air felt, the warmth of the room.
Right.
Or do you encode your history through actions, the aid verbs and the irregulars, the specific things you actively did, said, or grabbed? It is fascinating to consider how the grammatical structures we choose might not just reflect our stories, but actually dictate how our brains choose to store the narrative of who we are.
That is deep. Are your core memories built out of states, or are they built out of actions?
That is a brilliant question, and it's going to keep me analyzing my own brain all day long.
It's definitely something to think about.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Remember, your experiences are entirely unique, and your stories are absolutely worth sharing with the world. Keep practicing, embrace the messy mistakes, and we will catch you next time.